Before we start, take a moment to like and subscribe. A castle wasn't just a big stone building. It was a complex fortress and a bustling home, with every section serving a specific purpose. Let's take a closer look at the key parts that made these impressive structures so effective and self-sufficient. The keep was the heart and most heavily fortified part of the entire castle. It was a tall, central tower that served multiple roles, acting as the main residence for the lord and his family. The walls were incredibly thick, often over 10 feet wide at the base. And its entrance was usually located on the second or third floor, accessible only by a retractable wooden staircase. This made it much harder for attackers to smash through the door with a battering ram. The spiral staircases inside were designed to turn clockwise, forcing any attacking swordsman to fight with their dominant right hand against the central pillar, which restricted their movement and provided an advantage to the defending guards. In times of siege, the keep was the last line of defense, containing a well for fresh water and storerooms for food and supplies crucial for survival. The lowest level of the keep, often windowless, served as a secure storage area or a dungeon. The Great Hall was the social and administrative center of the castle. It was the largest and most public room, serving as the primary gathering place for everyone in the castle community. This is where the lord would hold court, host grand banquets, and entertain important guests. It was also where the entire household, from the highest-ranking knights to the lowliest servants, would eat their meals together, with social status dictating seating arrangements. The hall was often a lively place, featuring a massive central fireplace for warmth and light, tapestries to insulate the stone walls, and a raised dais at one end for the lord and his honored guests. The acoustics of the hall were often designed to carry the lord's voice throughout the room without him having to shout, emphasizing his authority. The courtyard, also known as the bailey, was the bustling hub of daily life. It was a large, open area inside the main walls, and it was often divided into a lower bailey and an upper bailey. The courtyard was where most of the castle's essential workshops and buildings were located, including the blacksmith's forge, the stables, storerooms, and barracks for the soldiers. The air would be filled with the sounds of hammers, the clatter of swords, and the shouts of people going about their work. It was the center of all castle activity, from training exercises to a local market, and where livestock might be brought in during an attack. The curtain wall was the massive outer wall that enclosed the entire castle. Its primary purpose was defense. Along the top of the wall were battlements, which had alternating high parts, merlins, and low parts, crenels or arrow slits. Soldiers would hide behind the merlins to protect themselves while shooting arrows through the crenels. A sheltered walkway, called the wall walk, ran along the top of the entire wall, allowing guards to patrol and move quickly to defend any part of the castle perimeter. The towers were built into the curtain wall at regular intervals. They provided strategic vantage points for archers to fire at attackers from a higher elevation and from different angles. The towers were often rounded, making them more resistant to siege engines like catapults and battering rams than square towers. The gatehouse was the most vulnerable part of the castle and therefore the most heavily fortified. It was the main entrance, a formidable structure that functioned as a castle within a castle. An enemy would have to get past a heavy wooden drawbridge, a spiked iron grille called a portcullis, and a series of murder holes or machicolations in the ceiling. Defenders would drop stones, boiling water, or hot sand through these holes onto any attackers trapped below. The gatehouse often had its own small barracks and prison cells, reinforcing its role as a key defensive choke point. The gatehouse was a psychological barrier as much as a physical one, designed to intimidate potential attackers with its sheer size and complexity. The moat was a deep, wide ditch that surrounded the castle, and it was often filled with water. Its purpose was not just to act as a physical barrier, but to make it impossible for enemies to bring siege towers or battering rams right up to the castle walls. A water-filled moat also prevented attackers from digging a tunnel beneath the curtain walls. The only way to get across the moat was by a drawbridge, a movable wooden bridge that could be quickly raised or lowered using heavy chains, providing the ultimate control over who could enter the castle. Some castles also had a sally port, a small secret entrance used for surprise attacks or for escaping. The chapel, found in most castles, the chapel was a crucial spiritual center. It was a place for daily prayer, mass, and private reflection for the Lord and his family. The chapel was often a beautifully decorated part of the keep, symbolizing the Lord's religious devotion and serving as a quiet sanctuary from the noisy life of the castle. The most elaborate chapels were often adorned with stained glass windows and intricate carvings, reflecting the wealth and piety of the Lord. The dungeons, while often imagined as deep, dark pits. The dungeon was actually a term for the main prison, typically located in a secure, often windowless, chamber on the lowest floor of a keep or tower. These spaces could also be used for storage of valuable goods, as their reinforced walls and heavy doors provided excellent security. The most infamous type of dungeon was the oubliette, a small, bottle-shaped pit accessed only from an opening in the ceiling. The name oubliette comes from the French word oublier, meaning to forget, suggesting that those placed there were meant to be forgotten. The barracks. These were the living quarters for the castle's soldiers, a vital part of the military community. Barracks were simple, communal spaces where soldiers would eat, sleep, and socialize, often sleeping on beds of straw on the floor. Their daily routine was regimented, with time dedicated to physical training, drills, and sparring to maintain combat readiness. In times of peace, they would be responsible for patrols, guarding the castle's gates and maintaining a constant watch from the towers. They served as the primary hub of military readiness, with soldiers training, cleaning weapons, and maintaining their equipment to be ready for any threat. The kitchens, located in a separate building or section of the courtyard. The kitchens were built away from the main hall and living quarters to minimize the risk of fire. They housed large ovens, cauldrons, and fireplaces for preparing food for the entire castle population, which could be hundreds of people. The castle's head cook, the master chef, managed a team of kitchen staff, including scullery maids who cleaned dishes and apprentices who prepped vegetables and meat. Food preservation was also a key task, with staff salting and smoking meat and brewing ale and wine for both consumption and hygiene. The kitchens were a hive of activity, constantly preparing multiple courses for daily meals and enormous feasts. The stables. The stables housed the Lord's horses, which were essential for travel, hunting, and warfare. A well-maintained stable was a sign of a wealthy and powerful lord. The horses were highly valued and often separated into different types, such as the powerful destriers for knights in combat and smaller palfreys for everyday travel. There were also stable staff, known as grooms, who were responsible for feeding, watering, and grooming the horses, and for maintaining their equipment. Horses were also crucial for carrying messages, providing a lifeline for communication between castles and allies. The gardens. Many castles had small gardens within the bailey. These were not just for decoration, but were essential for growing herbs for medicinal purposes and for flavoring food. The gardens were often divided into two types: a kitchen garden for vegetables, like peas, beans, and cabbages, and a herbal garden for plants like mint, sage, and lavender. These gardens were tended by the castle's gardener and provided a fresh and consistent source of food and natural remedies for the castle's residents. The herbal garden, in particular, was vital as it provided ingredients for the castle's physician to create poultices and medicines for the sick and wounded.